Welcome to the Oil and Gas Sales and Marketing Podcast, where every week your hosts LaCour and Matt Bertram share proven strategies and real-world tactics to help you connect with customers and close more deals. Let's do this.
Hey, welcome back to the Oil and Gas Sales and Marketing Podcast. And Matt, I realized something. Our listeners so far don't really see us on video. We do this on Riverside and we record the video. At one point, we're going to start releasing video. But I went to make some shorts to put on LinkedIn. And because you and I intentionally aren't publishing the video, I don't really pay attention to where I'm framed in the video. So when I tried to create shorts, I was halfway out of the frame. So instead of creating the best short I could, I had to find one where I was actually in the frame. So if you saw that on LinkedIn, people, that's the reason I was on the very edge of that video frame, is I didn't even think through it that way.
And Mark, we can stack them too. Like I've seen that a lot. So you have one person on top of the other person. So
that's too complicated for me. I have to wait for my marketing team to do that. Which, by the way, thank you for working with Laura. I hired a new marketing lead, and Matt and his team are working to get her up to speed. So I appreciate that, Matt. We got a review, which is great. A 5-star review. Mark and Matt are hilarious, and the content is super valuable. In a global industry like oil and gas, understanding cultural nuances is crucial for effective sales and marketing. This podcast provides invaluable insights into selling across regions. And this is from Zachary 85674 from the United States. So if you want to be like Zachary 85674, you get a shout out in the show, leave us a review and we'll read it on the air. And if you're not a fan of the show, I don't know why you're listening, but you can leave us a review and tell us what you'd like to change. And audience, loving these questions, man. We didn't get questions for a year, and now we're getting them back to back. But Matt, today we have a question, and it's from Anonymous, so we can't say who it's from. Mark and Matt, which, by the way, Anonymous, my name's spelled with a K, not a C, but it's okay. Mark and Matt, I stumbled across your podcast, and it has been incredibly insightful and helpful. I'm an experienced salesperson, but I've never sold into the oil and gas industry before. And I recently got hired by a company who also has never sold in this space. We have a new product that we think the oil and gas industry has a need for, but I've been struggling for almost a year and have not closed a single deal. My management has been very patient with me because they see that I'm doing all the right things, but I am at a loss on how to move forward and how to become successful. Help. Actually, this is a really good question. Selling into oil and gas is different than any other vertical, and it has its own nuances. And I think we're just kind of go through this. The first place I would start is do not try to pretend, if you're a salesperson or a company, that you know the industry if you don't. You will say something that will immediately identify you as an outsider. And if you're trying to fake it and we realize you're an outsider, then we don't have trust. And everything in this industry is about trust with your company and trust with you as a salesperson. So you got to learn the industry language and structure. But in the process of learning that, if you're honest, and I did this when I first started almost 30 years ago, shoot, that was a long time ago. I literally got hired and was given all the oil and gas accounts that were in the El South territory, which went from Louisiana to Florida up to Virginia through a big circle. And I went, met all my accounts, and the first thing out of my mouth was, I know nothing about this industry, but I promise you I will learn and be a good salesperson for you. And they welcomed me with open arms. So I'll give you a good example on language. The whole world calls it EH&S, environmental health and safety. The whole industry, whole world calls that. In oil and gas, we call it HS&E, health, safety, environmental. There's a piece of language that if you say the wrong thing that every other heavy industry uses, we know you're not from here. Just like when you hear the words upstream, midstream, and downstream, those means very specific things in the industry. And if you're curious about that, go to YouTube, Modal Points YouTube, actually. And one of the very first videos is me a million years ago when I had hair, explaining what the difference is between upstream, midstream, and downstream. You also have to understand the different buy-in roles, how projects get approved, what an AFE is, what an MSA is, what pre-qualification is. And like I said, oil and gas buyers and people that you meet with can tell immediately if you're not from my industry and you don't understand our world. And the best thing in that situation is to own it as the salesperson. And then they want to help you and they will help you get up to speed.
yeah, I mean, knowing the vocabulary is super important. I would echo what Mark said. I did the same thing in a different industry, in the medical industry. I was brand new. That was the persona I took on. I own that as wanting to learn and be an expert in kind of reference knowledge. And people took me on with open arms. Everybody has a certain strength and weakness. And also, you want to figure out who you want to connect with and you want to have people help you. You want to find those champions. I don't know if I'm going too far on the script here, Mark, but certainly having a champion to help guide you and to own where you're at and what you're trying to do, and being transparent builds trust.
Oh, dude, the first time I met a refinery manager was actually the Chevron refinery in Pascagoula, Mississippi. I was young. I was in a suit. Everybody's in their FRs and their boots. And so I meet this guy that hadn't shaved in 2 days. He was about 270 pounds, probably 6'5", big freaking dude. He's a refinery manager. And when I told him a story that I didn't know the industry, I didn't even know what a refinery does, he goes, boy, now this wasn't a put down. This is in Mississippi, so it was just the lingo, right? He goes, boy, get in the truck. Matt, he spent 2 hours riding me around the refinery in the refinery manager's truck, which was labeled a certain way so that he could get through all the dangerous areas. And he showed me everything in the refinery. Here's the offloading terminal. Here's a steam cracker. Here's a hydrocracker, right? He took pride in educating me. And I'm telling you, anonymous salesperson, do that and you will get the same type of treatment even today. Now, the next thing, if your company has it sold here, and here's a hard one. If you sold this product or service to any other industry in the vertical, you'll go, oh, no big deal. I've sold this product to aerospace or big box retail or to legal. The oil and gas industry could care less. What they care is if you sold it to the oil and gas industry. A lot of places in the industry, you have to get pre-qualified as a vendor before they will even talk to you. So there's systems like Aveda, IS Networld, Veriforce, all do the pre-qualifications. And it's not about your product or service. It's about, do you have the right insurance requirements? Do you have the right safety training? And if you don't have the right safety training, it's okay, but they want to know that so they can give it to you before you're allowed to walk on site. Do you have a TWIC card? Those pre-qualifications, a lot of times you have to do before somebody will even talk to you as a vendor. They won't even take a meeting unless you have those pre-qualifications. One of the best ways to prove your worth here, if you haven't sold before, is to do a proof of concept or a pilot. This is where you take a small gig. So you don't try to sell it to all of Exxon, all of their operations all over the world. You take one small piece of Exxon, their Baton Rouge, Louisiana refinery, one small piece of their business, and say, hey, look, Exxon, I don't want to sell it to all of Exxon because that's a risk. And I know that you see it as a risk, and I don't want to jeopardize people or infrastructure or anybody's career. We're going to take this one small office and I'm going to get with your people. I'm going to bring my best people and we're going to implement this product. And then we can come back and report back the results. And this way you're eliminating risk. Now I'm giving you $50,000 worth of consulting talking about this right now. They will almost always say yes. And then you get them to pay half. If they do not want to pay half of the proof of concept, then they don't have skin in the game and they're really not interested no matter what they say. They have to put up, right? So have them pay half, bring your best people there, work with their best people, and then do a small implementation and then make a case study so you can go back and report to management. And if you want to see how this stuff works, go to the OGGN YouTube channel, look for a video with me and a company called Navis, Navvis. I have a video where ExxonMobil, speaking of ExxonMobil, allowed one of their executives to come on and talk about Navis, which is a vendor, and talk about a real project that Navis worked with ExxonMobil, talk about real dollars and a real project outcome. Now, you want to know what that's done for Navis? That video was aired 3 or 4 months ago. They've done over 150 sales leads from that video. They didn't do anything else. It's just other competitors to Exxon seeing this, having the same problem that Navis has, and they reach out to Navis and they've closed 3 deals. And to close 3 deals in oil and gas in 4 months is unheard of. Why? Because not only do we do proof of concept, we have it documented for their sales team. Remember, get pre-qualified, get a proof of concept or pilot, whatever you call it, in place. And as you do that proof of concept and pilot, do a case study around it with the oil and gas industry. Once again, if you have a case study or a pilot outside the oil and gas industry, we don't care. We want to see if you've done it in our industry because we're different.
Hey there, it's Paige LaCour, co-founder and host of Oil and Gas Global Network. We want to give you something free for being a listener to one of our podcasts, so simply go to YouTube, search for OGGN, and comment on any video. Then I need you to send a screenshot of your comment to marketing@oggn.com, and I will personally mail you a free OGGN hard hat laptop sticker and a limited time I Love Big Oil button. So do it now before all the cool swag is gone.
Yeah, I mean, I want to echo that. It seems like, well, there's risk, right? So there's risk around doing business with a new vendor. There's risk around buying a new product. Everything is looked at from the risk lens. And if no one's done it before in the industry, no one wants to be the first. No one wants to put their job on the line. Having a proof of concept or a pilot with a big company, a major, somebody that other people can respect, that opens the door of, okay, if they did it, they pre-qualified them, and they can point to that. So the floodgates open, and I think deals start to kind of fall like dominoes. But having the issue that you know you can solve and getting someone to work with you on a smaller case to do that. And it doesn't have to be a major. I think a lot of times people are trying to land the major. A lot of times going into the major, sometimes you can go under somebody else's vendor approval and become a subcontractor to get in there. But you want to develop some case studies, and you don't always have to go whale hunting. You know what I mean? Like, you might want to work some smaller companies that you have access to the executive team. You know what their problem is. You don't have as much red tape. You can get the proof of concept done. And then, yes, document the process because you want to show it. You want people to see it. You want to create a story around it. And that is why media and social media is so powerful today, because it helps other people see into that and see how it could work for them.
Matt, damn, you touched on so many important things. So first thing, the risk to people's career is real. Our industry is different. If we make a mistake in oil and gas, people die. Very few industries, except maybe defense, does that happen. So the risk is not just to people's reputation, it's to the lives of their employees. And then think of the BP Macondo disaster. A mistake in my industry can destroy a company overnight, literally overnight. So Matt's 100% right. If nobody's ever done it before, you're a risk. The benefit doesn't matter. The risk is what matters. And there's ways to mitigate that. And that proof of concept story I just told you, I learned that a long time ago, is one of those ways to mitigate that. Matt's also right about going after the super majors. If your commission is based on profit, the lowest profit margin you will ever make and the hardest deal you will ever close will be with ExxonMobil. I love you, Exxon, but we both know it's true. They're very good at buying stuff, extremely good, as opposed to a smaller company like Oxy or Devon, where they're really worried about the fix more than the price. We have companies come to OGGN all the time, and I hear that. We want to sell to ExxonMobil, and I have to go, no, you don't. You want to sell to smaller companies that will write you a check quicker, that guarantees you cash flow, that isn't as hard to do the deal with. The other thing, I'm glad you brought this up, Matt, is this leads right into the next thing I want to talk about, is targeting the right entry point. How many people come to you and me and go, I want to talk to the CEO of Chevron? No, you don't. Let me tell you, you talk to Mike Worth, who actually listens to Oil and Gas This Week, one of our shows. That's the CEO of Chevron. You have probably 15 seconds to say something of value to him. And if you don't in 15 seconds, you'll never get a chance to talk to him again. It's hard at that level. Like, they're busy. They're running multinational, multi-billion-dollar a year companies with hundreds of thousands of employees. So instead of chasing the top, and I know that a lot of sales leaders are going to disagree with me this, but I'll go head to head with you this. Find the person that has the problem that your company solves. Your product or solution solves some problem. Find the person that has that problem. I promise you, unless it's shareholder value, it's not the CEO. And that's where your entry point should be. And then once again, to Matt's point, instead of chasing the super majors, the Chevrons and the Shells and the BPs, go with the mid-sized independents. They're huge. They're multi-billion-dollar companies. They have the same problems, but the deal cycle is much faster. They're also much more likely to work with you if they've never heard of you. And then remember this, don't forget the service companies, Halliburton's, Weatherford, Baker Hughes, Technip FMC, Schlumberger. They all sell to Exxon and BP and Chevron. To Matt's point, if you become a vendor to Schlumberger or to Halliburton, your product could still inside of ExxonMobil or Chevron, but they sell it for you, you don't. Now, the subject for different podcasts, there's risk there too, because now Halliburton owns that relationship with the end buyer, not you. Well, that's another subject for another day. The other thing is, look at where areas are hot. Right now in the Permian, it is unbelievably smoking hot, both in oil and gas operations on upstream because of what's going on in the Straits of Hormuz and Iran and the price of crude. It's also hot with pipelines because you got to move that crude and that natural gas to market, and we got to build more pipelines. There's not enough takeaway capacity in the Permian. And then they're building data centers left and right. So there's so much activity right there. If you're a new company that's never sold in oil and gas or a new salesperson, I would say get your butt out in Midland, Texas and go knock on doors. People will listen to you there because they're busy and they're trying to get stuff done.
Man, you got to ride the wave. Like, I feel like salespeople, they have a list, a target list, and it's not fluid. It's just fixed. And with the data that's out there today, you can find out what the problems are. You can find stuff in the news. You can find 10K reports. Like, you can figure out what these clients need. And if you can find a pressure point, positive, negative, whatever, you can sell into that because you're solving a problem with your solution. And if the demand is outstripping the need, that's your entry point. Ride the wave of what's happening.
Dude, you're so spot on. Every major corporate sales job I had in oil and gas before I started at Modal Point, I would get these static lists of air quote, named accounts.
Yeah.
And it was put together by usually the last sales manager and maybe with a little help from marketing. And the problem was, I love them to death. They didn't know the oil and gas industry. They would make up these imaginary numbers. Oh, here on your named account is Chevron, and you have $50 million worth of sales potential there. Depends on what's going on with Chevron, dude. What time of year? What's going on geopolitically? Some years it might be $100 million. Some years it might be $0. And they never understood that. So, Matt, you're spot on. You got to see what's going on in the industry, which is going to be my next point. And you got to learn it so you can see where the activity is. And that's where you concentrate your sales efforts.
There are services out there that all they do is tell you what wells got just approved, permitting. Like there's whole businesses out there that you can see what's coming down the pipe and where those opportunities are. And you should just utilize technology today. There's more data out there than you can do with what you want to do with it, right? So find those resources, find those partners, and understand there's ecosystem on ecosystem, and start to have kind of some system thinking of what's going on and be strategic about what you're going after.
Yep. And here's another, say, $5,000 worth of free consulting. Industrial Information Resources, IIR. They have analysts, so they're not scraping the web. They have people in-house at Chevron, at BP, at Oxy, at Fluor, at Kiewit. They're given project data. They know when these projects are going to start, what the projects entail, who the project manager is, what his cell phone number is, and you can buy access to all of that. So now you have a database of activity of current projects and future projects with budgetary numbers to help shape your sales. And if you do reach out to IR, tell them Mark LaCour sent you.
Also, Mark, one other thing, going back to the big majors, they have certain departments that are like technology departments. I'm losing the name right now, but Chevron has a group that all they do is look at new technology and new
Chevron
deals.
Technology Ventures.
And that's where you want to go. You want to talk to the people that are open and looking for new stuff. You don't want to go in through the front door. And I think that when I started meeting some of those people that were involved in some of those things, they were highly interested in what you were doing and how it could work for them and how to incorporate it that used in a different technology or the aerospace or defense industry, how to bring it in. That's your doorway in. It's not the front door.
Yeah, boy, perfect segue. We do this accidentally all the time. Next thing I wanted to bring up is you need to build trusted relationships in the industry. Your company does too, but you, as the salesperson, you need to build those relationships through trusted industry channels. The oil and gas industry, like I mentioned earlier, is relationship driven. The reason why is because what we do is so damn dangerous to people and for the environment and for infrastructure that we have to know we trust you. Trust me, when we shoot video on a rig, somebody just doesn't open a gate and let us go out there. They trust us because they know we have intrinsically safe microphones. They know we have intrinsically safe cameras. They know that we have the right PPE on. They know we've had the right safety training. They know we have the right spotters who have the right safety training. That's a lot of trust before somebody lets OGGN go out in a rig and shoot video. Also, this is a word-of-mouth industry. It's large, it's global. But I promise you that if you do good, solid work and build a trust relationship in one part of the industry, it makes its way to other parts of the industry. I know Matt's could jump into this, so I'm going to beat him to it. You also have to show up where the buyers already are. Industry associations, trade shows, conferences, trusted media. Like, Matt, who do we know that has a trusted oil and gas media space? Oh, it's us, OGGN, right? Podcasts are an amazing way to build that trust and that thought leadership in the oil and gas industry. And if you're looking in that space, you don't have to look at OGGN, although we own the space, but look at doing guest content, look at sponsorships for the right podcasts, the right YouTube channels, look at getting on the speaking circuit to build that credibility and trust in the industry faster than you could just by doing your day job.
So, Mark, one of the things that I'm actually working on right now, I'm working on a deal right now where sat down with the client, actually did a follow-up yesterday. We're talking about building entities online. And the pushback was, I don't see the commercial value in this. I can't see the attribution like you can like paid ads. And authority, you can put a number, you can calculate a number mathematically, and the search engines and the AIs can too, on how much authority you have online. And so there are ways through podcasts, through conferences, through being there. That's the proof. That's EAT. Expertise, authority, trust, and experience. EEAT is really how these algorithms, sorry, I haven't had my coffee this morning, mathematically determine trust and authority online. So people think you can't put a number on it. Now, attribution and tracking it's a little bit more difficult because there's usually like 20 touch points that happen before something closes. But more exceedingly, I think 85% of the customer journey is now happening online. When you were talking about, so this was back in the day. Okay, so Mark, when I was starting out in sales, I actually had 2 business cards. I printed my own that had my own little blog on there. And I introduced people of who I was, the things that I talked about. Like, this is Matt, like Matt. And then I had my business card for my business. Okay. And that had my title on it. And that was my identity to the business. I am a different individual, and all salespeople, you are better. And I've heard a lot of sales managers say this too. You are the reason they're buying. You are what's different, right? Thinking about online, like we've talked about in past podcasts, I would go binge listen to these podcasts, guys. But like the LinkedIn algorithm, if you friend somebody for the next 30 days, they will see your profile if they accept it. You can get in front of them and tell them who you are and tell your story. There's ways to get access to people that we didn't have back then. I had to hope that someone would look at that business card, type in that URL and go check me out. Now it's common practice. Anytime you meet somebody new, I was on a nonprofit call yesterday and there was new people on the call. What did I do while I was on the call? I was like, who is this person before I talk? And I was looking up their LinkedIn profiles. Like, know that people are doing this and you can get out who you are and your experience and tell your story on multiple platforms in multiple ways, but you need to be differentiating yourself from just the rep for the company. They need to like, trust, and buy from you.
Yeah, you're preaching, right? And that's so true in the oil and gas industry. Once again, bottom line is something bad happens out in West Texas or in the Gulf of Mexico or the North Sea.
They want to know you're going to pick up the phone at 3 a.m., right?
Yep. They need to know that if they call you at 3 a.m. and they need help, you will wake up and go roll a truck for them. And that's the bottom line. That's the type of trust it requires in this industry. Let's see, what else? Sales cycles. I am so tired of sales leaders from outside our industry coming to me and going, oh, no, we usually close deals in 2 months. And I go, not in this industry. And they go, oh, no, y'all just don't know what you're doing. It's a laugh. Now, if you're selling a commodity, pipe fittings or something, yeah, those happen quick. It's just a transaction. But especially in this case with our question, bringing something new to the industry, I would say to set expectations with yourself so that you feel good as a salesperson and with your management team, I would say minimum of 12 months from the moment you start doing all the right things, some of the stuff we talked about here, to the moment that you close your first deal. You may run across a bluebird. It's an accident or you just happen to be at the right place, the right time and close something sooner. And also don't be surprised if it takes 18 to 24 months to close a deal. That is normal in this industry. A couple of the reasons why, go back and listen to some of our other episodes on this podcast where we talk about the buyer's journey, about the internal champion. The sales process in oil and gas is long. It's also can be extremely technical, where you have cybersecurity experts having questions, where you have reciprocal engineers asking questions, where you have petroleum engineers asking questions, where you have the CFO asking questions, and all those different stakeholders have to be satisfied before the deal can move forward. So it just takes a really long time to move a deal in this industry. As a salesperson, this means you need heightened time awareness. And I see a lot of young salespeople that don't have this. Basically, they don't understand that the prospecting and sales work they're doing today affects their close ratio 12 to 18 to 24 months from now. And if you're not aware of that, you're going to have gaps. There's gaps in your commission. That's when your manager starts looking at you harder. So you got to have that heightened time awareness and understand how long everything is here. Then finally, you got to remember we're in a commodities market. So budget cycles swing. Some parts of this industry, like right now, the upstream side of this industry is booming. There's money everywhere, right? The midstream side of this industry is doing okay. The downstream side of the industry is not. Their raw feedstock is expensive right now. They turn crude oil and natural gas into products. As soon as this war in Iran ends, you'll see a flood of crude on the market and you can see the pendulum swing. We'll be in a low crude price environment. Unfortunately, you'll probably see layoffs, but you'll see a bunch of budgets cut in upstream. Pipeline will still be okay, but then downstream is going to boom because their raw feedstock has been cut by 40 to 60%. And you have to be aware of that. So just understand you have to adapt your sales process to these long, usually technical sales cycles.
Shameless plug. if you want to do research on how your product's going to land in the marketplace, you should reach out to our sponsor, MotoPoint, because that's what they do.
And they are world-class experts at it. Why do I know that? Because I started that damn company and I didn't want to sell it. And I found the perfect person to sell it to who's taken it to the next level, which is Matt, my co-host in this show. But MotoPoint is the market research company that figures out where your product fits or if it fits. It could be your product doesn't fit. But if it does fit, who would buy it, why they would buy it, and how much they'll pay for it, which greatly shortens your sales cycle. And typically in a MotoPoint engagement, as MotoPoint gets close to identifying all this information for your sales and marketing team, MotoPoint's the people, the companies they're interviewing starts asking who is your client because they're interested in the solution. Sometimes you get a couple of proof of concepts from MotoPoint right away without you doing anything. So reach out to Matt, reach out to motopoint.com. They're the best at this. Okay, I went through a lot of stuff here. Basically, the playbook, if you haven't sold in this industry before, whether it's you as a salesperson or as a company, understand the industry structure first, understand how you get pre-qualified, make sure you can develop real proof points, figure out where the best access is, where's the best point of entry, rather than chasing the CEOs and the Exxons and the Shells of the world. Build the trust through the channel that the industry actually uses, and then plan for a longer, more technical sales cycle than other markets, and you'll be fine. By the way, anonymous listener, it's easy to find my contact information. If I can help you further with this, or if Matt can help you further, reach out. We're happy to jump on a call and go into more detail around your specific situation. That was a lot, Matt.
We got it through it.
Yep. This is usually where I try to sell the 2 newsletters, but I'm not worried about that. They're sold out through all the rest of this year. Matt and I's, all our social links are in the show notes there as well. LinkedIn fail or tip of the week. Do you have one, Matt?
Not anything that I haven't shared previously. I can tell you that LinkedIn is getting indexed in Google. And
is that new?
Well, Instagram gets indexed, Facebook gets indexed, and LinkedIn is now starting to get indexed. I don't think that there's like a switch necessarily that you can switch on like Facebook, like you can actually make yourself public, but LinkedIn is starting to get indexed, and that information is starting to show up in AI overviews is what I've seen.
Yeah, and I agree with you. So it used to be when I would Google stuff, like if I didn't know you and I would Google you, maybe it would show me your LinkedIn profile, but it would show me nothing else from LinkedIn. It was like there was a no follow robots text there, right? And lately, in the last 2 or 3 months, now it shows me your content on LinkedIn. Interesting. Something must have changed. So that's just another reason to make sure that your LinkedIn profile is up to date and up to snuff, because you're getting indexed at a different degree now.
The roadmap that I look at when I'm talking to businesses is you need to be updating your LinkedIn, your business LinkedIn. Also, YouTube is becoming exceedingly important. And then Twitter is still getting indexed, but they've been changing some stuff, but they've had a partnership a long time with Google, and their stuff gets indexed. So even if you're not actively like generating deals on Twitter, if you're trying to build authority online, utilizing these other platforms are really important. Everything has changed. It's kind of optimized everywhere. And someone has that trademarked from some conference or was trying to get that trademark. But basically the search flow has left like Google. So if you're top of the funnel, it's now everywhere, and all the information that's happening, syncing all that together. And there's something called fame as schema, and building kind of entity connections and authorities and understanding how things are associated is now how Google is starting to change. It's not keywords anymore. You asked me a question at the end of the last podcast and I kind of rattled off some stuff, but things are changing. And so if you are operating on a business plan today that is based on how the world used to be even 2 years ago, you need to update your mental models. So that would be my tip.
Yeah, that's actually a great tip considering we didn't plan this out. All right, audience, thank you. Write in your questions. We're happy to answer them if we can. We're going to close this thing out. So remember, make a difference and not a sale.
Thanks for listening to OGGN, the world's largest and most listened to podcast network for the oil and energy industry. If you like this show, leave us a review and then go to OGGN.com to learn about all our other shows. And don't forget to sign up for our weekly newsletter. This show has been a production of the Oil and Gas Global Network.